Shawn Porter says that Errol Spence Jr. will have trouble with Terence Bud Crawford switching to Southpaw. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. I don't know if he's going to stay Southpaw or Orthodox, whatever he's going to do. I don't want to give away Terence Crawford's game plan from what I've seen for how I'd prepare for him. But I could say is if he were to turn Southpaw and remain Southpaw, I still have a feeling that Errol Spence would have more trouble than he would with the Southpaw situation. I could be completely wrong, but I think Errol would have a little more trouble. But we'll see. It remains to be seen. There are so many questions. I'm tired of answering them. I'm ready for the fight to come so I could stop answering the questions, said Shawn Porter. He concludes with, obviously, you don't want to limit yourself. You know, he says that this fight could be a trilogy, but you don't want to limit yourself to the possibilities outside of winning that fight or losing the fight. Both guys are trying to be very smart, very strategic. I respect it and I get it. We'll get the fight. Everybody has got to be patient. Now, Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr., this is my take. I think it's an amazing fight. Both guys are phenomenal fighters, and perhaps they would only lose at welterweight to each other, you know, right now. There's some other up-and-comers, but they're still on the way, like Jaron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz Jr., Conor Benn. But for the here and now, I think that it's safe to say that they probably wouldn't lose outside of one of the young hotshots getting a shot, which probably is not likely. They wouldn't lose to anybody else except for Errol Spence losing to Terence Crawford or Terence Crawford losing to Errol Spence. And I got to be real. It's a 50-50 fight. You can really go either way with it. Pick whoever you want. But I'm just curious with some of the breakdowns. I've seen a lot of people who are picking against Errol Spence, and then when they're explaining why they're picking Crawford, I'm not understanding, based on what I've seen from Crawford, some of the notions. That's just my personal opinion, but ultimately, I guess we'll see when the fight happens. Again, I'm not mad at picking either guy, but the breakdown, I'm not understanding some of the breakdowns that I'm hearing. Like Shawn Porter, he just said that Errol would have more trouble with Terence Crawford as a southpaw. And I don't know that I fully agree with that. For one, I think there's a different depth that Shawn Porter didn't cover, at least in this interview. And that's the fact of when Terence Crawford has fought in certain fights. I just think when you switch, and if you switch frequently against somebody who's throwing punches and bunches and volume punches, as we know, relentless, break you down, attrition type of fighter, grinder, like Errol Spence, that can be extremely dangerous based on the fact that you are vulnerable in those segues. Like you can get caught in transition. If I'm not mistaken, this happened to Danny Jacobs, and I'm not comparing Terence Crawford to Danny Jacobs. They have their own style, but I believe it happened to Danny Jacobs versus Triple G. Hell no, guys, hey, Max. Right? In that fight. And that's when Triple G scored the knockdown. So I think for Crawford, him not conforming to one style, it could be very problematic, if he gets caught in transition. And I guess for me, the bigger thing is this. From my experience of seeing Terence Crawford fights, and I haven't seen him fight someone as good as Errol Spence, to be frankly, as big and strong and experienced, big fight level, big event caliber fighter with the mental dexterity of an Errol Spence. I haven't seen that. Like nobody, like including Gamboa and gold medalist Felix Diaz and stuff. I haven't seen him fight someone quite like Errol Spence. But my big question is this, is what I've seen from Crawford fights, he seems to get off more and get almost into a different gear, like a second, third gear, when he starts off orthodox and then switches to a southpaw, and he produces some of his best knockdowns and highlight moments in the southpaw position. So instead of framing it kind of how Shawn Porter framed it, my big question is for Crawford, if you switch to southpaw against a natural southpaw and you're not beating Errol Spence Jr. as a southpaw, the big question is Crawford good enough as an orthodox fighter, as a righty, to beat Errol Spence? So for me, when we're talking about southpaw versus south, because they're both southpaws basically, you know what I mean? but Crawford is ambidextrous. So my biggest question is, if what you're doing, you're landing your best shots or whatever, and Errol Spence is not going away as a southpaw, can Terence Crawford truly beat Errol Spence just as a right-hander? Because again, you guys let me know in the comment section, when I'm thinking of the biggest and best wins and the baddest moments in Crawford's career, I'm thinking of a lot of it when he was a southpaw, if I'm not mistaken, in the Gamboa fight. And I know this was years ago at 135. Gamboa, I had him winning the first 5-6 rounds or whatever it was until he started getting knocked down and then eventually got knocked out. You know, Gamboa was doing very well, and Crawford could be a slow starter. This was also evident in the Thomas Delorme fight, where Delorme definitely was winning the first 4 or 5 rounds or whatever, and then Crawford switched on. Even the Kell Brook fight, Crawford had a mouse under his eye, and Kell Brook was off to the better and faster start. And it just happens when Kell Brook got popped, he just, you know, completely just went away. You know what I mean? There was no fight in him or nothing. It was crazy. But that's my true question, is if Terence Crawford is not having the usual success as a southpaw, then what? You know, does he have the tools to beat Errol Spence in large chunks of the fight as a right-hander? So I guess we'll find out. There's truly only one way to find out. They need to fight, and you know, hopefully they do, so we can get these answers. Let me know how I did in this video. Subscribe to my channel, SLC. Subscribe, like, and comment. I am the best in the business. And I'm up. Introducing Super Thanks. Right here on the official Boxing Ego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with a $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new, interactive, and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation.